Now let's explain producer surplus and consumer surplus together that represent total surplus or total welfare for society. And at the same time, we're going to try to explain why free markets, in theory, maximize total social welfare for society. To explain that, we're going to use this model that looks a little difficult now, but once we kind of identify the different areas, it should be more clear. So the equilibrium point is Q1, right, where the supply and demand are the same. I like that blue, so let's do black. So at the equilibrium point at Q1, we have consumer surplus equals to areas A plus C between the price and the demand, and producer surplus equals to areas B plus D. So total surplus, the total welfare for society, will be the summation of consumer surplus and producer surplus. That will be total welfare or total surplus, and that will be A plus C plus B plus D. And to demonstrate that this is the most society can make, that this is the maximized social welfare for society, we can basically compare this, the total surplus at this point at Q1 with two other scenarios. One in which we have less output, Q3, and one in which we have more output, Q2. So let's start with Q3. So at Q3, how much is the surplus? Well, it's clear that it should be less than it was at the equilibrium point, because at Q3, C and D are not produced. And if they're not produced, then no one can be getting surplus out of it. At Q3, the total surplus is simply A plus B. And you can notice that areas C and D are gone. They're not produced because at Q3, C and D are simply not traded in the market. If no one traded those units, then no one can be getting a surplus out of it. Economists call areas C and D a deadweight loss. Right? That's a loss to society because someone was getting benefits out of that. Some producers were getting benefits and some consumers were getting benefits, but since those units are not traded, then no one can get benefit anymore. So clearly, any situation, any equilibrium quantity that is below Q1 reduces the total surplus for society. Now what about a quantity that is higher than Q1? Well, it's a little more complex, but let's explain it this way. So from Q1 to Q2, what is happening? Well, society is adding value equal to the area below the demand curve, F plus G, right? Make sure that. So they add value, right? The area below the demand curve tells you how much value. I'm sorry. The area below the demand curve tells you how much value you have, right? So added value for society. And that is actually G, so that's the area below the demand curve, G. And then the cost is the area below the supply curve, so the added cost for society will be actually areas F plus G. So what's happening here is that the cost that we add when we move from Q1 to Q2, F plus G, is more than the value we add of G. In other words, if you're forced to produce more than Q1, you're going to be forcing producers to produce who are going to have to produce that good at a cost that is higher than what people are willing to pay for that good. So that's what happens when you have more than the equilibrium quantity. It's that you're forcing producers to go into the market to produce a good at a cost that is higher than what people are willing to pay for that good. Again, what people are willing to pay for that good between Q1 and Q2 is G, is the area below the demand curve. And what it costs to produce that extra units between Q1 and Q2 is the area below the supply curve, which is F plus G. So basically, F, no one can cover that with value. Right? The cost that we have, that society incurs in producing those extra units between Q1 and Q2 is more than the people are willing to pay for. So that's also a situation in which our surplus is reduced by area F. So again, this basically proves in a very simple way that the reason why, at least in theory, markets maximize social welfare.